Hi, I'm Tom Migot from Tom Migot Photography. About 3.5 years ago, when I started publishing videos on YouTube, one of the messages that I tried to convey was that it's not because we are in a digital era that you should forget about the development phase in photography. And it's a crucial one. And it's not because you can shoot a JPEG and just publish that JPEG that the work should stop there. But interestingly, recently I came to realize that I see more and more people spending way too much time in front of their computers than out there preparing for the shoot and shooting. And I can see this on multiple Facebook groups, social media group, and as well on my own, on the Tom Migot Photography Club. And that kind of saddens me because to me there are three crucial phases in photography. There is the pre-production one, which consists of doing some research, understanding the right time of the year, the right time of the day, finding the right angle for the shoot, then the actual shoot itself, and then the development. So three crucial phases. And so what you're about to see now was never really meant to be. You see, the story began for me about 3-4 weeks ago. It was late on a Friday night when I actually came across a picture of a waterfall. And as I was pretty intrigued, I realized that actually that was shot in a small village called Dollar, which is about an hour drive up north from Edinburgh. And so I started checking where that waterfall was and discovered that there was a huge stream and there was a path all along it. There were multiple waterfalls. And I decided to actually, instead of going to bed, just skip it and go on location and scout it, trying to see what the potential of that location. And so what you're about to see is basically a series of clips of me scouting the area. But interestingly, what I discovered as I was there suddenly was a castle. And I didn't know there was a castle. And so the clips really shows me wandering on the hills trying to find the right angle to capture this castle. And interestingly, it turns out that I came home with photographs and a pretty decent one, I must admit, which I did not expect, actually more than a decent one. And so what I'm proposing here is that you watch this series of clips, and at the end of this, we'll reconvene here, and I'm going to walk you through the development of one of the photographs that I've captured. All right? Stay tuned. Okay folks, so behind me that's Campbell Castle, and look on the other side there is a hill, and I'm actually thinking of going at the top just to take that picture. The light is not perfect, certainly not, but I have a feeling that I may want to come back one day, and at least I have that as a reference. So I think I'm just gonna go up there and show you how it looks like. Let's go. Alright guys, so I'm not on the hill that I showed you, simply because you see the castle here. The hill I showed you is where the White House is, and I figured that was not a good angle. So I went on this one here, and I've got two choices. I could just go up here and try to get a good angle, or I could go down. Personally, I'm gonna go down. Not that I'm lazy, but simply because I don't want to shoot a castle from above. So I'm hoping that I can actually go down and shoot a castle from below, and having the forest behind, maybe hiding the White House. So let's go. Look at this. I'm getting close. I hope I can get a better view than that. Oh, it looks like a path. Few steps to go above the fence, so maybe it's good news. Maybe there's a viewpoint. And I see a bench over there. It might be a good view. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Okay, so I had a look around here, and I don't like this angle. The reason why I don't like this angle is because it's just the clouds behind, and I don't want to be on the hill on the other side. That's wrong, but I want to be on that hill on the other side. There's a much better view. I'm going to be 90 degrees from the sun. I'll be able to use the polarizer, so I think I'm good to go back up from where I'm from, and then carry on and go on the other side. Now that's landscape photography, guys. You need to check your area before you actually take the shot. Let's go. So I must admit, guys, I'm getting tired. It's about 12:30. I've been up for about 28 hours now, and I really start feeling it. I don't know if you guys can see the hill where they actually chop the trees. Well, that's basically where I want to go. So, what do you guys think? It was worth it to walk around, right? Beautiful light. So, I was lucky that at the castle there was a shop and they were selling drinks, because I was getting thirsty. But I think it's a fantastic spot with the hills in the background. I think we're going to be lucky to get a really nice light going on the castle. So I'm going to put a time lapse, and you guys can appreciate. Alright guys, so this is it. Castle has been captured. Now all we need to do is go down the glen, potentially see something to capture before going home, because I'm pretty tired. It's about 2:30 in the afternoon, and that now makes it 30 hours that since I left my bed. So, talk to you at the next spot. Ciao. Hey guys, so we're back at the computer. I hope you enjoyed the clips, that you found them informative and not too long. So we are in Lightroom, and you can see there are 42 photographs that I've actually made of the castle. Why so many? Well, the reason is simple. You've noticed, especially in a time lapse, that we had some wind, at least up in the sky, and it was a day with quite a lot of clouds, and it was good because we could have the movement of the cloud. The beauty with movement of the cloud is that it gives this interesting effect with the light, that it's almost like you have somebody upstairs with a torchlight and painting our landscape, and depending on where the clouds are, it gives us some spots of light a little bit everywhere and really define and sculpt the landscape. And although I'm going to make sure that I get a proper exposure for my subject, which was the castle here, then, you know, the combination of all those spots, I need to find the one that is going to be the best, and it's not the back of my camera that is going to give me this. So, and although I could see it with my own eyes, I like to record everything and then make a judgment call afterwards at a computer. So I've already gone through that step, and I've already defined 4 photographs that to me are interesting. And so the 4 photographs actually share the same EXIFs. So we have ISO 100, and that's for the image quality. We have the focal length at 35mm, and that is because I was shooting with a 24-105 Canon lens. And you know, it's not because I could go all the way to 24 that I have to shoot at 24. And for me, the 35mm was giving me a good frame, and I really like that. The f11, well, that's for the depth of field. I have a tendency of going between f11 and f13 on that particular day because of the distance between me and the subject, and the fact that I was using a 35mm focal length, which is a wide angle. F11 was enough. And then the shutter speed, well, it's 115 simply because I didn't want to capture a movement, and then it gave me a correct exposure. So I used the Canon 5D Mark III, so that's a full frame camera. The lens I told you, 24-105, and I used a combination of graduated filter and a polarizing filter. So let's have a look at those 4 photographs and why I find them interesting. So here, for example, what I really like about this photograph is obviously the castle is well lit, that's all right. But unlike the shadow cast right here on that hill, on that far hill, I also like the cloud on the left side in the corner. I really like this. That gives me a nice sky. I'm not particularly crazy about the lack of light on the hill right here or at the top right corner here. I'm not crazy either about the foreground because it's quite lit, and it doesn't help revealing a subject, although the subject is well exposed. So for me, this photograph has a good shadow here and a big cloud on the corner that I like. This one, we no longer have the big cloud, we no longer have this little shadow cast that we had on the far hill, but what we have a nice light falling on the hill right here that I actually like. I also like here that line, that rim line that we have on the edge of that far hill. I also like the fact that the foreground is quite dark. I like that. I'm not crazy about the fact that here that patch of grass is actually as bright as my castle, and that the top of the hill is actually dark. I'm not crazy about this. The next one is very interesting to me, and it's probably the most powerful one. And the reason, but before I mention this one, let's go to the next. On this one, what I like is, I like the hill. I like the fact here is a little bit in shadow, and I like the fact that we have some light, finally, on that hill. The rest of the image, it's alright. It's just the sky really likes clouds. And the foreground, it's okay. But let's go back to the third picture, this one. For me, this one is the most important one. For me, this one is the most revealing one. And although you may think, well, actually, there's nothing much interesting here, because the cloud, well, we don't have much cloud, it's pretty blue here. We don't have a shadow cast that you liked, that's true. And then here, the hill is totally dark, and same goes here. So what is it so special about this one? You say, for me, when I do a landscape photograph, it has to capture what I see, and what I see is influenced by the mood that I'm in. And on that particular day, as you saw in the clips, I've been going up and down the hills. So clearly, I wanted a sense of, you know, the fact that there are hills and you need to go up and down when you cross this area. And here, because of the light, the way the light falls, and the fact that this hillside is in the shadow and here is in the bright spot, reveals something very important. And to see this, you need to look at another photograph. Let's look at this one, for example. And if I zoom in, look at here, we could think that you could walk on the hillside, go down, and pretty much somewhere around here that would be a flat ground that would link this hillside with the castle ground. You also have the same thing when you go on this photograph here. You could go down and it's rather flat, and you could just go from here to here nicely. You have it here a little bit, not too much. You see the trees that really make the separation of the property and the hill, but still you could think that you could walk on the hillside and reach the castle ground. Well, the reality is that you cannot, and that's the reason why this photograph is so important. You cannot, because there is actually a gorge, there is a glen between this hill and where the castle is. And you notice how much in this photograph the castle is perched on this mount. You don't have this effect on the other one. Here it just looks like the castle is on the hillside, and it's kind of a butt, or there's something that a mount and that's it. But it's rather flat, and it's almost a continuation of the hillside. Even more on this photograph, it's all flat. It's almost like the castle is in a glen, but the reality is that it isn't. It's actually on the smaller hill. So to me, that's very important. So that being said, which photograph am I going to choose? Well, the truth is I'm going to choose the 4 of them, because there is, in each one of them, there is something crucial that really makes this landscape alive. So I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to make a composite out of them. So for that, I do right click, edit, open as layers in Photoshop. And now it's going to open in Photoshop. It's going to take some time. What I can tell you is that the tools that I'm going to use today are, well, they've never been covered in the series that I kicked off about 2 months ago called Learn Photoshop Step by Step. But I've used them in the past. I had done videos about 2 years ago talking about them, and you have the links showing up on your screen right now as Photoshop is rendering the image. So we're basically going to use 3 tools today. We're going to use the layer mask, and the layer mask are going to help us reveal certain part of each photograph, each layer, to keep in our final image. We're going to use the healing brush and the healing tool brush and the clone tool, and that is going to get rid of some of the oops, that was not meant. Some of the visitors that we had on the castle ground that I don't want to keep. So we have our layers here, and you notice we can just hide one layer and see what it does. The first step for me is to define the order for those layers. And the first one here, that first layer, really gives us the shadow that we had on that hill and give us the big cloud. So I'm okay to be the first one. The second layer, it actually gives us the light on this hill right here and on the rim of that hill, and also a darker foreground here. The next one, that's the one that I said that was very interesting. That gives us really this this perch effect. So for me, that has to be my ground layer. That has to be my foundation. That's the one that I'm not going to make much changes. And finally, the last layer is for this hill. So I'm going to enable all of them, and now I'm going to focus on the top one. What I'm going to use, I'm going to use a layer mask. And layer mask, you have 2 choices when you use layer mask. You can use a reveal all or a hide all. Reveal all is going to be a white layer mask. Hide all is going to be a black one. Here it's easier if we use a reveal all to start with. You'll see what I mean. So for that, we're going to be using the brush tool, and it's very important to make sure that our black is black and that the white is white. Very, very important. Because I'm going to paint on the white layer mask, I need to select the black color. And let's go over the part that I actually want to keep from this layer. Remember, I said that what I liked was that shadow cast. Please note that I'm going to be using a brush with a hardness level at 0%. I want my brush to be soft. That's going to give us the most blending effect, the best blending effect. So I'm just going to go over that part that I want to keep, and interestingly, it deletes it basically. So here, and I'm going to need to zoom in a bit and reduce my brush size. And that's about it. I'm going rather fast here in this video because I've already done the job beforehand. So here, now the next step is the big cloud. So same thing, increasing the size, and I'm just gonna cover the cloud and reduce the size, and I'm basically gonna go on the edge, and that's pretty much it, just like that. All right, so now what I'm going to do, and it's very important, I want to see here the changes. Well, in order to change that, I need to actually invert my layer mask, and that's going to transform my white layer mask into a black one, and what I painted in black becomes white, so it reveals exactly what I want. And you notice if I hide this layer now, the only thing that it gives us is the cloud and that shadow cast. So the very purpose of that layer, of that photograph. Then the next one, remember, is for that light that we have on the heel, as well as the one we have on the rim. So I'm going to select it. Same, I'm going to do a layer mask, reveal all, and by default, when you click on the icon here, that gives you the same thing as in the menu. So zooming in, like this, that should be enough. And now I'm going to paint over this heel. Reducing the size a bit. Here we go. Close to the trees. Increasing the size to cover more ground faster. That's good. On the edges. Like this. Okay, that seems to be pretty good, and I'm reducing the size to go on the edge at the top. Okay, the other thing that I actually liked, I told you, it's that rim that we have right here. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to use reduce the brush size. Okay, and I'm just going to go over. So here it's not very obvious where my brush is. It's very, very subtle, but I think it will be good at the end. So I'm reducing this size. You notice I go on the blue and it doesn't do much, so that's good. Here I'm going as well, the top. Okay, and then there's just that little bit here. So I'm going to white color just to clean a little bit what I just did. So up. To make something more natural than what I had. Here we go. And here from the sky. All right, so that's pretty good. And same thing as before, we're just going to invert the layer mask. So we now have a black one, and you notice what it gives us is that really nice light patch that we have on that hill. And if I activate the other one, you notice we have it here. So the third one, you remember, and I can disable the other one, was for this hillside right here. So I'm zooming in. I'm making a layer mask, reveal all again, painting in black, and I'm just going to cover this hill. And it's getting darker simply because, well, all the other layers, the problem with the other layers was that that hillside was very, very dark. So I'm just going to cover here, and here we go. And we have a nice blend. Okay. Here we go. This is very, 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 very simple. Here. Okay, well that should be okay for now. I may want to go actually take the white one and slightly go on the edge. Go back to black. But as I said, this is not going to be my final image because I've already done the work and I took my time to do it. So here's just for showing you guys. Okay, so this one I'm just going to invert it. Here we go. So if I activate the other layers, this is basically our final image. Remember, there was the good thing about the second image was the foreground was darker and I quite like that. So here I'm going to select the layer mask and I'm going to use the white color and I'm going to paint over just like this. And you see, like this, I don't need to create a graduated filter in Lightroom. I can just do something like this that's going to make it quite natural. Here we go, and I think I quite like this. All right, so that's pretty much it. Another final detail is the flag. You see, when I go back to Lightroom, there was one image that had a nice flag. Here we can see the flag properly. Then this one, well, we didn't see the flag. And here we saw the flag. And a third image, which is our ground image in Photoshop, well, it doesn't have the flag. So I'm going to keep this one because we really see it nicely. So what does that mean? That means that we need to reveal the flag. And so that's going to be our third layer right here. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to reveal. So I'm going to use the white. I'm just going to, and look at this. Yes, beautiful. Now I'm hiding this and I just going to go down the pole to make it seem to be a slight difference of alignment. Go back to black. Yes, and to me that's pretty cool. So here's our photograph basically, and so I told you about the cleaning the people in the foreground. That's just me. You don't need to do that if you don't mind them. For me, I like the wildness aspect of the photograph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go at the bottom layer and I'm going to add a layer. So a transparent layer. So I'm just going to add this and now we have a layer here. And I'm going to go use the healing brush tool right there. And it's a magical tool, as you've seen in the previous videos that I've done, because here, that person, well, it's gone. And I'm basically going through all the thing on the ground like this. And I mentioned the clone tool because sometimes that tool is not going to work the way I want to. So I use a combination of the clone tool and this tool to do the job. And here, for example, I would actually use the clone tool. And here we go here and do something like this so we don't see it anymore. Same here, do something like that. And here, just to cover the close, and don't know what that is, just cleaning this. That's pretty much it for over here. I think there's somebody here on, there's somebody on the bench right there. Oops, don't zoom too much. So I could just use the heal brush, but that, you see, I'm really going into the detail now. So I removed that, and then we have this person here. So I could just, here we go. That's the beauty of that tool. And remove that person, and then use the clone tool to do a proper job. So here, and to make sure that we have our ground set properly here, and it does a pretty good job like this. And same for that guy here that we have. Something like this, and let's add like that. And then we have this one. So up, up, up. It's gone now. Just clean better. And finally, this one, I'm going to use the clone tool. So I'm going to use this here. So clean this a bit. Here we go. And that's basically it. So, it's a bit twisted. Let's rotate it. Okay. And that's our photograph, guys. This is what I did in Photoshop. Then I would actually save it. I could flatten the image, but right now I'm just saving it. Go in Photoshop, in Lightroom. And in Lightroom, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a gradient filter, and I'm just going to bring the highlight down and do something like this, just to reveal the color a little bit. It's pretty saturated, so I will change the saturation a little bit, just bring it a little bit down. I don't need too much. And do fine tuning here. But that's basically the photograph. So I can show you how the photograph looks like, the final one that I did. And it's going to be here. If I go to dollar, up, that's the photograph right there. So let me bring it full screen. Okay, this is what it is. You may wonder why I didn't want to do a 16:9 crop. The reason is I wanted to actually keep the effect of the sky. The sky and the hill points to my subject, which is the castle here. So that I needed that sky. And I find here the foreground quite interesting. So it's a little bit bright, and I may darken a little bit, but that's pretty much my final image, I would say. The other image that you saw in the video was of the waterfall. So I just wanted to show it to you much bigger. That's what it is. So I hope you found this informative, this video. It wasn't planned, as I said. It's a little bit long video, but I hope that you got my idea. So I spent quite a lot of time scouting the ground, finding the right location for it. I could have used software, Google Map, and so on to try to find the right location, but there is nothing better than seeing it with your own eyes at first. And as I said, I had never been to that ground before. It's a little bit of luck because, as I said, I was only going there to scout. I didn't expect to actually come home with a fantastic photograph. And I did, more than one actually. So, and then once home, I actually did develop my photograph. I did spend quite some time developing it, but most of the work and the importance of the work was capturing all these 42 photographs. You see, if I didn't take the time to capture all these 42, I would not have been able to actually achieve this photograph. And it's quite natural, it's a natural result. And yes, you may say, actually, Tom, it's not natural because you added a cloud that wasn't there at that moment and so on. Yes, I changed that. But at one moment, that cloud was there. At one moment, the shadow on that far hill was there. So all I did was basically grasping every little pieces that I liked and kept them all in one single photograph. So tell me what you think in the comment. Tell me if you found this informative, if you like the format, if you want to see more on-site behind-the-scene videos of any photograph that I capture, whether it's portrait or landscape. And until next time, this is Tom Migot saying, if you like it, well, capture it, mix landscape. Think twice before you press the shutter, and you'll be thanking me. Ciao.